Hello and welcome to the Viva Connections and SharePoint Framework Biweekly Sync. I am your host for this call. My name is Garry Trinder and I work at Microsoft. I was going to say my name is Patrick Rogers, but yeah, old habits die hard, right? It is September the 22nd, 2022. So, agenda for today, we've got the latest update on the SharePoint framework and updates across all the patterns and practices updates, so PnP JS, CLI for Microsoft 365, reusable PnP controls, samples, and we've also got the optional picture time with together mode. We've got two demos coming up for you today. So we have Nandeep and Ravi who are going to demonstrate Viva Connections ACEs for public holidays, and we also have Alex with us who's going to go through the PnP reusable controls. So opportunities to participate in the program. So people are always asking, how do I get involved in all the different initiatives across the community? One of those ways, a great way, is to actually get involved on this call. So if you are doing some great work in your company, you've got something that you can share that's appropriate to be shared on the community calls, then we would absolutely love to hear from you. So if you have something you want to show that off, please get in touch with us from the link that you can see on the screen there. Fill out the form, and we'll book you in. We'll get you a slot for future calls, and that's a great way of contributing, showing what you've done. Other ways of contributing, you can go to GitHub. So there's lots of open source projects across the initiative. So if you're using the tools, reporting issues, you want to get involved, submit pull requests, or also get involved in those repositories as well by helping out with issues, maybe answering questions with people who are maybe having difficulties with using the tools, or just general kind of questions that they need answering as well. Another way of getting involved is just feedback. So one great way is telling us how we're doing. How are we doing on these calls? Is there anything that we're doing well that we could do more of? Anything that we're not doing well that we'll do less of? Is there any documentation that you need? Any areas that are potentially lacking? And obviously, how can we help you as well? If you've got positive feedback, then yeah, that is also incredibly welcome as well. We don't always like to hear the bad. I'm sure there's lots of people out there who've had great experiences with the projects across the community, and we'd love to hear that feedback as well. So we have an absolute ton of resources to help you get started or just learn new things. First set of resources, videos. So we've got the Microsoft 365 developer YouTube channel. So this is a great place if you want to see some tutorials and go through some Learn Together series that have been run by advocates here at Microsoft. And this is covering everything across the Microsoft Cloud. So we've got Microsoft 365 in there, we've got Azure in there, we've also got Power Platform. And also, if you are wanting to catch up on the videos and sessions from Build earlier in the year, we have the Microsoft 365 focused videos on that channel as well that you can catch up on. Next, we've got the Microsoft 365 community channel. So here's where you're going to find all the recordings for the community calls, all of the community demos that have been performed in the calls previously. The community call recordings are generally there 24 hours, and then the actual individual demos are published later down the line. We've got again, a great group of open source projects. We've got PnP, Office Dev, Microsoft Graph, SharePoint, and OneDrive as well. So if you're interested in getting into open source and contributing, check out those repositories and see what help you can give and what they are looking for help with. Sample galleries. So we have absolutely tons of samples that will help you see what other people have built across 365. The best place to start is to go to aka MS M365 samples. This takes you to the unified samples gallery. So this is going to be able to aggregate across all the other galleries, so you can search in one place, make it really easy to find maybe a sample that you're looking for without having to jump into the individual galleries. And if you forget all of that, the one link to remember is aka.ms/m365/community. This will take you to the Microsoft 365 platform community site, and there's all of the links available to all these different resources and community calls from that one page. Moving on, so we have many other calls apart from today's call. We have a weekly Microsoft 365 platform call. So this is a Microsoft hosted and Microsoft speaker focused call. So this is, again, every Tuesday. We've got other calls which are more community focused. So these calls have community speakers. And if you want to join these, which definitely encourage that you do, you can get all the public invites from aka.ms/m365/calls. On next week's Microsoft 365 platform call, which is the 27th of September. So we've got all of the latest news from Microsoft engineering across Microsoft 365. We've got two sessions coming up. So we have Aicha Bass, who is going to do a session on building a productivity dashboard using Teams Toolkit for Visual Studio. This is following the session that I actually did earlier in the week, which was a getting started session using the toolkit. So if you're interested in that session, definitely check out Aicha's session to go through a real sample application and how she built that using Teams Toolkit. We also have Vesa and Alex, who are on the call with us today to give us an update on the latest for SharePoint framework and where the next investments are going to be. And for Sharing is Caring, unfortunately, David isn't with us today. He's still in Orlando, I believe. So Vesa, can you give us an update?
Yeah, quick update in here. As you're looking into contributing or as you're looking into consuming some of those samples and the awesome stuff that is available and shared for you by the Microsoft and the community, you might need some help. And that's why we created, together with David Warner and many other people, the Sharing is Caring initiative. And we do have a separate sessions available, for example, first-time contributor or how would I contribute on docs and all of that. Or the upcoming events will be on writing for the web, so going best practices related on how would you focus on sharing your learnings in the web, and then the Power Platform sample contribution. So as an example, yesterday we had a session in Orlando. I wasn't there because I was already at the airport, but David and Hugo hosted a session where there was more than 100 people live going through the first-time contributor in a GitHub and how would you get started on consuming things. And these are really popular, hosted by David and a team. So we would strongly recommend checking out the latest schedules from AKMS Sharing as Caring address. Now, as you have scheduled or as you have contributed and learn how to do things, we want to embrace you, want to acknowledge you. And that's why we created our Microsoft 365 Platform Community Recognition Program. And this is powered by the Credly, which is the same Credly what Microsoft uses for certification programs. And the key point here is that we want to give you electronic badges related on your contributions across the different areas. So it could be the community contributor, it could be Power Platform contributor, there's a speaker contributions, you've been part of the Sharing is Caring, and you will get a badge on all of those things as you start working together with the community. More information and signing up on there is M365 PnP recognition. Just to call out this one, you need to go and fill in the form that you're interested in getting these badges, so we'll get the right email and address which you have done and registers to correctly. So that's why it's important to sign up for the form. Now, let's go to the following slide and the section of and focus a bit about SharePoint framework. So as you saw from the agenda, we'll do a bit more like 20 minutes focused on these areas together with Alex next week, kind of a level setting where we are. But quick updates from today. 60 minutes ago, we actually introduced Microsoft Viva Home, which is a new way of exposing the Viva connection as the default landing location in the Microsoft Teams. So not just the corporate communicational entry, but rather a location from where you can access all of the other Viva modules and kind of being the me-focused, the centralized, what's going to happen today entry when you open up Microsoft Teams. It's all based on the Viva Connection implementation. There's some configuration options. Do you want to use this or the other Viva Connection style? But all of this is extensible. So you're able to modify the Viva Home also with SharePoint framework. So using that same ACE extensibility technique, which, for example, Nandeep and Ravi are going to show today. So really, really cool announcement. Another investment area where the skills of SharePoint framework are super relevant. So it's not just about SharePoint. Again, the name is a bit confusing. It's also about cross Microsoft 365. Let's go to the following slide. I wanted to call out the usage worldwide. So again, we cannot share how many tens of millions these specifically are, but there are tens of millions of monthly active users for custom third-party created components in Microsoft 365, which is amazing. And you can really see the growth curve. For example, this autumn, that's more than 45 degrees going up on the day-to-day usage on the SharePoint framework components. So all-time highest usage in a day is now from this week, and this seems to be a nice theme that it's actually every single week there's always a new record coming up on the usage all up, which is awesome. It shows that it's a safe bet to build your extensibility for. So no significant update on the SPFx roadmap. We'll do a bit of a deep dive on some of the stuff more detailed next week, also the future direction. But 1.15.2 is the latest version for production. 1.16 preview is out. If you install that and provide us feedback, that would be super, super cool. So we understand what works and what does not work. 1.16 is scheduled to go out by end of 2022. 1.17 has an ETA in December, January. We'll see how the timings actually go. And I updated the picture just to give you a small indication on something which is also happening in the future. So right now we cannot go exact details, and we cannot do that even on next Tuesday because there's going to be announcements in Ignite on this one. But right now you can use the SharePoint framework for Viva Connections, SharePoint and Teams, but we are extending that. So you will see more and more extensibility points, not only on the Viva Home, but also on other areas in Microsoft 365 using the SharePoint framework, which is super exciting, but more details on that a bit later.
Thank you very much, Vesa. That's great enhancements. Really looking forward to those updates landing. Yeah, really excited. Right, okay, let's move on. PnP JS. Julie, hopefully you've got the latest updates for us.
I do indeed. Not a lot new to say from last week, except for that those things I announced last week did indeed happen on September 9th. So 3.7 dropped. Always doing documentation updates, so those are in. If you didn't hear before, Conrad K did added support for favorites in SharePoint, so sites and list items. Search and filter parameters on graph pages, paging behavior got added or sort of fixed. The ability to rate an item using the 1 through 5 rating system in SharePoint, that got added. Some more and final improvements to query escaping from version 3 updates. We've cleaned that up quite a bit, and that is all complete now. Some enhancements to copy by path and move by path, so that got done. And luckily and thankfully, Patrick Rogers added the ACS auth behavior recipe, so people who are using that behavior can, or auth style, excuse me, has a recipe on how to do that in version 3. So don't forget again about the nightly builds. If you install at PnP/SP at V3 nightly, you will get the build from the previous night, which would include any merges for PRs that happened previous to that. so you can see what is coming for the next release. And as always, follow us M365 PnP JS on Twitter. And that is all I have for today. Back to you, Garry.
Thank you very much, Julie. Great updates again for PnP JS. Let's move on to CLI for Microsoft 365 updates. So we've another busy few weeks. We're busy on with the next minor version, which is going to be 5.8. So we have beta releases that have been released every few days now. Since the start of the month. So far, we've got support for executing custom web requests, a really interesting new command. So this is if you just want to execute any requests against Graph or SharePoint, we now have a command that allows you to put in the URL and the headers, and the CLI engine will handle everything for you, such as paging, makes it really nice. So if you've come across a scenario where we don't have a particular command that's been built yet, but you know the API to call, it's a great way to extend your scripts using that new command. So moving on, we've got new commands for managing OneNote notebooks. Also an interesting one about retrieving the API level changes in Graph. So this is so you're able to see what has been updated across the V1 and beta endpoints as well. Some more permissions commands that have been added as well. So further enhancements to managing web and list item role assignments, as well as creating role definitions on SharePoint Online sites. So if you want to try this out and maybe you want to try out that custom web request command, then you can install the beta using the @next tag, so you can get that from npm. Or you can use our Docker container, which is a great place to start because we configure everything for you. You can just run the Docker container and we do all the installation of CLI, PowerShell, auto-completion, everything is all in there. Definitely check out the release notes. I've actually put the link in the chat. So if you want to take a look at the links in there, click that. You'll get the latest updates. If you want to follow us, please follow us on Twitter at CLI Microsoft 365. And also get in touch with us on the repo if you've got any feedback, new ideas, maybe something's gone wrong as well and you need help. If you can use the link aka.ms/CLI-Microsoft 365. And just a bit of a reminder, we do have V6 that is coming scheduled for November, which is a big major change. There will be some breaking changes in that, but we will have guidance available for you to make that jump from V5 to V6 with the least amount of pain. Okay, moving on, we have SharePoint Framework reusable components. So, right?
Yeah. So yeah, there are any updates since last time. We are still on 3.10 and 3.9 for the controls. I want to apologize that these versions brought some issues with People Picker, I believe, due to update to 1.15.2, so the merge was not completely correct. But the fixes are already in beta versions, so if you want to, you can definitely use betas for the controls. And yeah, we are planning to probably release new versions in the next couple of weeks. That's all.
Perfect. Thank you very much for that update. Okay, moving on. PnP Modern Search. So PnP Modern Search, you can find out more about it at aka.ms/PnP-search. So you can build modern search experiences using these flexible web parts. Fantastic web parts, used them in the past, absolutely love them. So we have the 4.8.0 beta release with support for actionable adaptive cards. Definitely check out the release notes there in the link to find out more. And the V3 December 21 release as well there. Okay, moving on to the PnP SharePoint Framework samples.
Yep, and I can take this one. So right now, we have a lot of contributions pending as a pull requests across the AKMS SPFx extensions, web parts, and ACEs, and these are the locations where we would love to have your samples around SharePoint Framework. As said, pull requests pending. A lot of the team has been super busy with the Power Platform conference and other stuff, so we do apologize on the delay on that. But if you're looking into getting access on all of the Microsoft 365 samples, have a look on AKMS M365 samples. We'll get for sure your contributions processed as soon as possible. Cool. Let's go to the together mode picture and then go to the actual stars of the day. So demo. Man, I will take over the screen sharing. Those who are willing, and you can enable the camera, and we'll put the together mode in a place. 1 second. I'm just adjusting that. There we go, and I will share my screen. I guess it's that screen, hopefully. Yes, it is. And let's actually get everybody on the screen as well. We have 50 seats in the room, which typically fills up relatively fast. The picture quality is not quite optimal right now. Let's see if we can actually get it a bit better. Do I need to, 1 second, not yet. I will actually stop my camera if it helps. And if nothing else, we'll capture that from the other side. It's not quite optimal, but it's okay. The key is to see the people, and let's do some hand waving. We'll grab a GIF animation out of that. Thank you everybody for joining. Awesome to have you once again on the call. We are so lucky to have you joining us and helping us on understanding what you need and what's possible, or what we should be delivering from Microsoft side. Thanks, everybody. Great to have you on the call, and let's go on the stars of today.
Let's move on to the demos. So first of all, we have Nandeep and we have Ravi, and they are going to demonstrate Viva Connections ACEs for public holidays. You have the floor.
Yeah, thank you very much. All right. Hopefully you can see my screen, hear me okay?
Yep, all good.
All right. Okay, so hi everyone. It is great to be here presenting our sample on Microsoft Viva Connections Adaptive Card, showcasing public holidays. So holidays are the most exciting part of our life, and out of this excitement, at least I keep close eye on public holidays, although they don't keep changing at a regular basis. But hopefully placing this card on your Viva Connection dashboard will help you ensure well-being of your employees. Right. So on the author front, myself, Nandeep Nathan, I'm Microsoft MVP for M365 Apps and Services, and I'm privileged to have this sample developed along with my colleagues, Ravi Kulkarni, who is a consultant at Microsoft and have joined us today with me for this presentation, and Smita Nathan, who is Microsoft MVP for M365 development area. And here are our social media handles to get in touch with us for any later discussions. So showcasing these public holidays as a Viva card was quite a common ask that we came across during our discussions with our customers and colleagues. So we took this opportunity to build one and then worked on it over a weekend project to make it available under the PnP repo, which is now serving all of us. All right, so as a summary for this, this sample shows how to build an ACE with card view and multiple quick views to display the public holidays for employees based on their office location. At the same time, employees can also use this solution to update their office location as well. So while we are adopting to Microsoft Viva Connections to create some kind of an engaging digital employee experience, having this kind of a card built for them to show the upcoming public holidays will add definitely some more value to their well-being. So for this public holidays, we built that using an ACE component type in SharePoint framework, which enables developers to build rich kind of an experiences for Viva Connection dashboard as well as SharePoint pages. And when we decide to create ACE solution, we get at least choices to create the card, probably with basic card template, image card template, or a primary text template. Each of those have different capabilities to render the content, and this particular solution is developed with image card template because it is managing the primary text, title, and image configuration better for displaying the holidays. So specifically talking about this solution, it displays current logged in users public holidays in card view based on their office location, and with the action button on the card, it helps employees to browse the quick view, which showcase all of the public holidays for their location. And also from there, they will be able to update the office location. So this sample is developed with SPFx version 1.15.0, and it is available to download and use under the PnP sample repository at the URL which is mentioned on the screen. If you can scroll, Ravi. All right. Thank you. So let us come to the implementation side of view. So this solution is backed up by the SharePoint list, which needs to be present on your SharePoint home site. So this list has some simple schema to store location-wise list of public holidays. So firstly, we have a title, which is out of the box column, which presents the public holiday title. Second column is more important, the office location. So this office location is a choice field to present the locations where holiday applies to, because one holiday can be applied to multiple locations. So that's the reason we have this created as a choice field. So this should be mapped from the property pane with the user profile field in the Azure AD, which contains the user location. So it could be office location, as in our case, or even it could be city, country, or whatever property you want to map that with. Then we have a date column, which presents the date of that public holiday when it falls to. And then we have an optional image column, which is used to upload image which is related to the public holiday. And if in case you don't specify any image, a generic image which is stored in the assets folder of the solution will be displayed in a quick view. So on the property pane, we have a few things like card title, which can be shown up, and then that user profile property to use with it is a major one. So you need to just map that to the Azure AD profile property of the user, and from there it will be able to fetch everything based on your user location. And then obviously you will have to choose the list where which will display from where the holidays are coming through. And then that was quick. And with that, I will hand it over to my colleague Ravi to walk us through the demo and the code part. Ravi, over to you.
Thank you, Nandip. That was the good introduction about the card. Now let's see how it works. So we have created a simple list that will store all information about the holidays across the different office location. This list contains 4 columns: the title of the holiday, then we have office location column, which is a multi-choice column and which support multiple locations. Then we have date of the holiday and the optional column image for the holiday. Now let's quickly see how the card works. So basically, to set this card up, we have to set up few properties in the property pane. Let me edit this web part. So the very first property which we have to set is here we have to provide the user profile property, which is used to store the user location in your organization. On my tenant, we are using office location. And then the next property which we have to set is the list, which we have designed to store the holidays. And in case if you select the wrong list, we have designed an error card to show you the error, and the detail error will be logged into the console. And then we have the last property. You can restrict your web part to show holidays till a particular date using this field. For example, if you want to restrict it to this year, I will simply select 31st December from the calendar. Now let me save this and let me preview it. So currently my user profile property is set to India location. Hence it will show me the next upcoming holiday on the card view for my location. This is a default card view, which will be available on the dashboard. And we have provided a card button here, like upcoming holidays, and that will open the quick view, and that will show next upcoming holidays at my location. And in the quick view, I can see that my location is set to India, and these are the next upcoming holidays at my location. Also, we have provided here a update location button, action button, and this will provide you a drop down to select from the available location, and this available location we are querying from our holiday list. So suppose if I want to change my location to Australia, and if I click on update, the location has been successfully updated. This message we are getting, and then if I click on the close, now you can see that the default card view has been updated to the Australian holiday. And if I click again on the upcoming holidays, Now it will show me the next upcoming holidays in the Australia location. And similarly, I can again update my location to some different location as well. So that was pretty much about the card. And let me quickly jump on to the code view. Okay, so this sample is developed using SPFx version 1.15.0, and we have used 3 packages. PnP SP is used to interact with the SharePoint data. Then we have SPFx property controls, which is used to show the list picker in the property pane. And then we have the moment to interact with the dates. We have also designed a service that will help us to interact with the SharePoint data and to get and update the user profile property. So firstly, in this service, we are setting up the context. And the very next method is to get the office location based on the current user profile property. And here we have used MS Graph Client v3, which is part of the SP HTTP package. And then similarly, the next method is used to update the particular office location with the new location, which we are using in our quick view. Then the next method is to get the upcoming public holidays based on the current user location. And if I have provided any limit to date in my property pane, it will get me the filters public holidays. And the very last method is to get the available location. This is to get the filtered available location from the holiday list that we are showing in the quick view when we are actually updating our location. So moving on to the main TS file, we have declared some state variables over here, but the important ones are the available locations, which are the filtered available location from the holiday list. Then we have office location, which stores the current user office location. And then these are some of the Boolean values which we are interacting into our code. And then we have upcoming holidays. This will basically store all the upcoming holidays for the current user location. Then we have set up some views. So there are the default view is a card view, and we have 3 card views over there. And then we have 4 quick views which we have registered over here. So the very first default view which we see is the card view, and then we have error card view and setup card view, which are the supporting views for the card view. And related to quick view, we have the quick view here, and then we have supporting views which are loading views, error views, and success view, which are supporting this quick view. Then we are setting up our service with the current context. And if the user has not picked up the list title, then we are actually showing him the card view setup ID view, basically which tells him that you need to set up your web part property pane first, and then you will be able to see the card. If all goes well, then we are calling this load card info method over here, which is basically querying our service with the current user location and the profile property, and it's getting all the available location as well and the upcoming holidays, and it is binding to our state. If all goes well, then we are showing the default card view onto the dashboard. Else, if there are any errors, we are actually showing the error card view. So next thing is we are actually rendering the card view, default card view over here. And then we have a method over here, which is on property pane field change, which is actually whenever you make any changes in your property pane, this will be triggered and it will automatically load the refreshed card info on your dashboard. Then we have the cardview.ts file. Basically, this file represents this card block actually. And the very first method is the get data method, which fetches the latest upcoming holidays from our state variable and displays the very first holiday onto our card. And then we have the card buttons over here. So we have created one card button that is upcoming holidays. And when you click on it, it will simply load the quick view registry ID. That is our quick view. And then we have the last method, which is on card selection, which will basically navigate to the upcoming holidays list when you click on this card. Moving on to the quickview.ts file. So this quickview.ts file will represent the next upcoming holidays view. So this is the quickview.ts file. And basically into this file, we are actually getting the data again, and we are setting up this date with the next upcoming holidays. And again, if everything goes well, then we are just displaying them in one by one. If something went wrong, then we have the supporting error view, quick view, which we are displaying over there. And then we have on action button over here. So this is basically triggered when you have selected any location and you click on update. Then this basically will call our service and it will update the user's new location. And this quick view is based on the adaptive card, which is quickview template.json. And based on the state variables, we are leveraging the state variables to set the values over here. And we have few action card as well here, action.show card, and then we have the action.subset, which is the submit button. And when clicked on it, this method will be triggered. So that's pretty much from the code part and the demo part. So thank you very much for the opportunity to have us here to present our sample. And please do reach out to us in case of any queries through these social media handlers. Thank you. Back to you, Garry.
Thank you very much. Absolutely fantastic demo. Really love that. It's generated tons of chat as well around locations. So it's definitely something that people are really interested in. So fantastic. Thank you very much for that. OK, let's move on. Alex, PnP Reusable Controls Basics. Over to you.
Thank you. Trying to share my screen. Let me know.
Got it?
Yeah, works?
Yeah.
OK, cool. So my demo and this small session is about like intro to PnP reusable controls. So who is not familiar with those? We have kind of two flavors of reusable controls that you can use free of charge in your solutions. One is React controls. This is the set of controls that can be used in let's say, main body of your web part or in SharePoint framework extensions. And the second type of controls we have is reusable property pane controls that can be used in property panes for either web parts or adaptive cards extensions as well. So the main idea of these controls is you don't need to think about the kind of UI and some basic regular operations related to SharePoint, for example, many solutions need controls that will communicate with the SharePoint to request sites and display some site picker or list picker or maybe details list or something like that. So instead of each time implementing these controls in your solutions, you can just reference our modules. These are NPM modules, and reuse these controls in your solutions. So we have pretty neat documentation for both SPFx property controls and SPFx React controls. If you go to the docs, you can go to control sections in the menu, and you will see that we have huge number of different controls that you can use in your applications. Some of those can be pretty easy one. For example, web part title, it just provides you like small text area where you can kind of set your title. And if you are in read mode, this will display in the similar way to out-of-the-box web parts. But we also have some pretty complicated, pretty complex components as well. For example, tree view that you can use to display different trees in your components. We have different types of charts. We have carousel as well that I'll be demoing today. So many components that you can use in your web parts and extensions. Same for property controls. Again, if you go to controls, you will see that you have lots of controls in there. And to be honest, most of them are pretty similar to what you have in React controls repo. The difference is in implementation. So property pane is a bit different from kind of standard React control. You still can use React controls in your property controls bodies, but you should have some additional implementations, let's say contract that can be used by SPFx core to understand how to render your control, how to pass properties to your controls, and how to react on the changes in your properties. So this kind of it from like documentation perspective, from definition of what are these controls. And let's actually go to the actual demo and code how you can use the components and controls. So let's imagine that you need to develop a web part that will display a carousel of images that are stored in some document library on your tenant. And it should be pretty flexible, so it's not tied to one specific site or one specific document library. The author of the page should be able to select the site and the document library from where you need to grab these pictures and display it as a carousel control. So if you start thinking about implementing all of that from scratch, it will be pretty complex tasks. So you will need to have some site picker and document library picker to understand where you should request data from. Then you need to request these data, these pictures, and then you will also need to implement the carousel control with the standard carousel features like animation to slide back and forth, probably some additional functionality to display some additional content on hover, and so on and so forth. So, and let me actually show you what I'm talking about. So I have this PnP carousel control in here. You can provide some title, hello world. As you can see right now, our web part is not configured. So I click on configure. We go to the property pane. I can select some site. We have a beautiful search in here. When the site is selected, my select document library component is enabled, and I can select the document library from here. And this is the document library picker. So it doesn't show you any additional list on the same site. And as soon as I select the document library from here, I can see the carousel. So it has some additional functionality on hover. So it provides some additional text. And it has buttons to go back and forth from one slide to another. And if I go to the preview mode, it also works in the same way. You see the title, you see the carousel, you see the automatic animation, everything that you can expect from this kind of control. And from the data perspective, in this carousel document library, we have the image, we have some title, we have some description and URL. So nothing specific, nothing unique from like control perspective, just the standard metadata that you can have in your document library. So again, if you start developing this control from scratch, it might take you a while to develop all these kind of UI, all these requests that you need to do. But if you're using PnP controls, it's pretty easy. And let me actually show you the code. So this is our web part. Pretty standard one. If you look at this one, we have few properties to store, like sites, selected list ID or document library ID, and title. Our render method is pretty small. So here we are creating the PnP carousel. It's our custom React component. We are providing some properties, and I'll go back to that. And the interesting part here is property pane configuration. As you saw, we have a site picker and also a list picker in our property pane, but we don't actually need to develop anything custom. We just call property field site picker and property field list picker. These two functions are imported from SPFx property controls, and you just need to pass some standard properties like context, properties, your label, what should happen when the property has changed, and some additional configuration like what are initial sites for you. This is, for example, the filter to display only document library, so you can select the base template for the list. And that's it. Your property pane is configured. You don't need to do anything else. Now let's go to our React component that we have, PnP Carousel. Again, here it's pretty standard. The only actual logic that we have in here is this .get images, and let me go to this one first. In this get images, we are checking if site URL property is set, if list ID is set, and we are doing just one REST API request to SharePoint to collect our documents, our pictures from the document library. And after that, we are just kind of massaging this data to create carousel image interfaces or instances that can be passed to a carousel control. And now let's go to our render method to show what's happening in here. And again, the render is pretty small. First, here we have this web part title that is imported from PnP React controls. So again, you don't need to implement any logic like, hey, in edit mode, you need to display a text area, and in read mode, you just need to display the text itself with specific styling. Everything is done for you in the control itself. You don't need to do anything. If we don't have list ID and site URL, so this is the situation where when your web part is not configured yet, again, we are using placeholder component from the PnP React controls library, and it will display this beautiful kind of placeholder for you with a button that can open the property pane. And then if actually your web part is configured, we are displaying the main content. And in the main content, again, it just practically one component, one control here, carousel. In carousel, you're providing element. It's pretty flexible property. You can provide either your own JSX elements, React components in there, or you can provide the iCarousel image props components. In that case, carousel itself will be rendering like a standard UI for each and every slide, or you can also provide just single React component. In that case, you will need to implement on move next clicked and on move prep clicked. In that case, you will just replace this React component. And with this flexibility, you can basically have not even images in your carousel, but instead of that, you can provide some rich UI or some text or whatever you want, and each slide can be actually different. Again, you're just providing few properties in there, how exactly you want your carousel to behave, where you want your buttons, how you want these buttons to be displayed, some additional styling for the control, if you want infinite loop of your animation or no, and that's basically it. You don't need to do anything else. Again, if you're thinking about like implementing everything from scratch, it can easily take you a day or two to implement all this stuff. But here we have kind of like 100 lines of code in our component. We have additional like 80 lines of code in our web property, web part, sorry. And at the end, we have this beautiful control, and we also have the configuration ready for it as well. So this is the main power of PnP reusable controls. You can kind of think about your business needs, about implementation of your specific scenarios, and don't care too much about the UI and about standard operations with SharePoint. If you're using PnP reusable controls, your controls will behave similarly to out-of-the-box UI in SharePoint, and will provide you a lot of functionality that you don't need to implement each and every time in your custom solutions. And that's all I have.
Fantastic. Great demo, Alex. Yep, PnP reusable controls. Great way of accelerating your SharePoint framework development, and give yourself a jump start as well. Having used them myself in the past, I know how fantastic they are. So if you've yet to use one of the reusable controls, I definitely encourage you to check out the repository, check out the documentation, and give them a try. Okay, so we are coming to the end. Again, I want to thank all of our presenters, Nandeep and Ravi, for their Viva Connections ACE Public Holidays demo, and obviously Alex for his demo that he just did then. Thank you for attending today's call. Some great conversations, some great demos. Yeah, absolutely love the fact that I've been able to present this call, having been a contributor and a speaker. Absolute honour to be able to do it this week. And our next call is going to be next in 2 weeks on the 6th of October. The recording of this call will be available in around 24 hours, and that will be published to the Microsoft 365 community YouTube channel. In that time, please follow us on socials as well, on Twitter, and remember, we've also got the general dev Microsoft 365 call next Tuesday, September the 29th, and you can get all the information about the upcoming community calls at aka.ms/m365/calls. And with that, thank you all, and bye-bye.
Excellent, Garry. Thank you. Great job on hosting. Thank you. Thanks everybody for joining. Keep the feedback coming. Thank you.